is truth, Yah's word. 2 or 3 witnesses so it can be confirmed. To you, my Yah, do I lift up my soul. And trusting you, he always kept me whole. And left my enemies deep in their holes. Let none that wait on Yahweh be ashamed. But shame on those who sin without a cause. Show me your ways, please teach me your laws. Oh Elohim of my salvation, I'm staying down and patient. As a child, all the while I'm waiting. Remember not the sins of my youth. Lead me in your truth and he'll give your soul ease. The earth shall remain inherited by a seed. The secret of Yahweh who fears Elohim. A fool believes everything and to every word spoken. You can't take heed unless you hear somebody curse. You know you did the same thing. That's why I'm begging Yah for mercy and his love and kindness, cause I know that I ain't worthy.
The 7 seas, captivity is taking hold upon me. Put fright in me and now we flee from fallen leaves. The grinding grief from all the blood our people seen. And now we cry, where is the word from Elohim? And so we said that we are his wives to be submissive, but we dismissed it. It is of this reason we have fallen victim to the lies that your root will prey and pursue. Rebellious of his son, forgotten that he is one. Broken the holy ordinance, rejection of reproof. Then acknowledge what we do. Now we return back to the truth.
Yah's word is the truth. Yah's decrees is the proof. Local 12 just released the scoop. It's the summer of Sam. They calling us ham. Made us worship the son of man. And somehow that the moon, they stole our style and gave it to Rothschild. Now we exalt the vow, but hit the turnstile. Yah's Nabi set the crooked things straight. Praise Yah from the rising to the evening to the closing the gates. Exposing the fake. Yah give the truth a daybreak. Now the liars can't escape and the haters can't relate to the light that truth make. See the wicked's pride deflate. Ye adore Yah, magnify Yah, cause he's great.
All Yah give is truth. All Yah teach is truth. All Yah bring is truth. Nothing but the truth. Nothing but the truth. Nothing but the truth. Nothing but the truth. Nothing but the
The Spirit of Yah, all I need. The Spirit of Yah, all I breathe. The Spirit of Yah, can't you see? The Spirit of Yah, wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long spirit of Yah. Wanna be in the spirit of Yah. I long for His spirit. I yearn for His spirit. I long for His spirit. I yearn for the spirit of Yah. All I need, the spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the spirit of Yah. Can't you see the spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the spirit of Yah.
NBA and Da'ath and might, counsel to fear Yah and adore His light. These are the spirits we need in our life to walk uprightly, be pleased in His sight.
I long for His spirit. I yearn for His spirit. I long for His spirit. I yearn for the spirit of Yah. All I need, the spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the spirit of Yah. Can't you see the spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the spirit of Yah. I long for His spirit. I yearn for His spirit. I long for His spirit. I yearn for the spirit of Yah. All I need, the spirit of Yah.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. For Yahweh is righteous, Yahweh is holy, and let Yahweh be magnified. Shalom, shalom. I am Moreh Naphtali, here with you once again, bringing you nothing but the truth. It's truly an honor, a privilege, and pleasure to be able to stand before you this evening, to indulge in this great sacrifice, even a sacrifice of righteousness. This is one of the sacrifices of righteousness, even the sacrifice of the knowledge of Elohim. And yes, Yahweh loves the sacrifices of righteousness. He hates the sacrifice of foolishness. And so praise the mighty Yah for all those who are indulging in this great, beautiful sacrifice with me as well this evening. Hallelujah. Tonight's program, we're going to be dealing with the time of the end. Time of the end. And the Almighty told the heathens in the book of Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, and it's relevant to all of us because Yahweh said He put the world in the hands of the wicked, and He put it in their hands for a time and a season, and eventually that time and season must come to an end. And this is what He told the heathens in the book of Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter. I'm going to start reading at verse 26. I said, I will scatter them into corners. This is thus says Yah. I will make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and Yahweh has not done all of this. And we still believe it to this day, that Yahweh hasn't done all of this. This pandemic, people dying every day, our plight as what they call the so-called African Americans in this country, this is no way that the Almighty has done this. And the heathens, they believe that all the power is in their hands. The power of life, the power of death, the power of riches, the power of poverty. They believe that they have all the power. But no, Yahweh has done all these things. He says, for they, in the 28th verse, they are a nation void of counsel. See, counsel is the third pillar of wisdom. And to receive counsel, you must have counselors. And your counselors can't be of the same mind as you. You must have counselors that's of a whole nother mind, a whole nother spirit. As Pharaoh, when he seen Joseph and said, this is a man that has the spirit of Elohim. And this is why he made him the chief counselor of all his dominion. And if he wanted counsel on anything, it came from Joseph. But this nation, Yahweh didn't bless this nation with a Joseph. Yahweh didn't bless this nation with a Daniel like he did with Nebuchadnezzar. He didn't bless these nations in this magnitude. But look what it says further. He says, for they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. So Yahweh basically said they don't have no wisdom, because that's how you get wisdom from counsel. And they don't have understanding. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would at least consider their latter end. And this is how you know they have no wisdom and no understanding. As our teacher told us, Moreh the prophet, those that don't know history, he said history is your best source of knowledge, and those that don't know it is destined to repeat it. And here it is. All you have to do is look at history. They know that we are the children of Israel, and they know that the time and season of ruling over the children of Israel eventually comes to an end. And eventually you will be judged for all the evil and atrocities that you've done to these people. It happened to all the nations before the nation today that's ruling the world. And they know this, but they're not wise enough to really consider it, and they don't understand it. They believe that they can change the course of history. And they believe that they can change and determine the direction of their future. The system is collapsing right in front of your eyes. Whole, not cities, but states are burning. Continents is getting ate by pestilence. People are dying. And record numbers. And so they know, but they don't have enough wisdom, and they don't understand that they are at their end. They're still trying to keep hope alive. It's like a man on his deathbed, struggling to breathe, fighting for his life, but he refused to accept that he's about to die. And in his refusal, his denial of his end, he's refusing to humble himself. He's refusing to accept the truth. And this is a bad place to be in at the time of the end. Even Saul, when you read his story, we all know his story. Go back to Saul and read his story in his end time. And we know he fooled out. When Yahweh took, he fooled out when he had Yah's spirit. But then he went to extra foolishness when Yahweh took his spirit. And in the time of the end, right before he passed, he showed a little bit of humility. Read the story. When King David cut a piece of cloth, a piece of his skirt off, as a witness that, listen, Yahweh delivered you. And when he seen that testimony, he couldn't do nothing but humble himself. He didn't have to, but he did. And he said, here it is, I've been pursuing you for nothing. He accepted the truth. He humbled himself to the truth and said, surely you are going to be the king. And all I ask is that you spare my seed after me. That my son, my grandson may still live in this earth and bear seed and carry on my name. And that takes humility. To accept the truth and to ask someone to help you, although you've been pursuing a life. Listen. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight? Except their rock has sold them. And so when you see these movies, these slave movies like Roots, and you see 1 and 2 slave masters on a big ship with hundreds of slaves, that was a picture of truth. And how is that possible when you got all these strong black men and women? They're outnumbered. But no, our people wasn't strong. They were weakened. They were cursed. And they was smitten by their Elohim. And this is why just 1 or 2 can come and just take thousands to flight. The battle was already over. You just coming in and just taking the pickings. Look what it says in the book of Daniel. Because you really have no wisdom unless you considering your latter end as well. Yahweh, truth and his understanding, his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is consistent. If you have any wisdom at all, it's only because you must be considering the end. Because wisdom, true wisdom, is the path of humility. And the only thing that's truly going to humble you in the way that you need to be humble is when you consider the latter end. Consider the latter end of your life. consider the latter end of your loved one's life. Consider the latter end. In the book of Daniel, the 12th chapter, it says in verse 1, and at that time, what time? Well, you're going to see this is talking about the end time. The end. When the Almighty spoke of 4 beasts that will rule this world, and out of these 4 beasts, the last one at the end will be the 4th one. And that's the beast that we're under now. This is the last heathen king that will ever rule this earth. It says, at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was, since there was a nation, even to that same time. And said, this is how you know we at the end right now. Because this is a time like never before. That's undeniable. If you trying to debate the undeniable fact that this time is like a time that's never ever been before. Just to be frank and honest, you want to be blind. You want to be in denial. You don't want to accept the truth. Like a man on his deathbed that can't even breathe, about to die, and still says, no, I'm not. I'm not about to die. This is just a phase. I'm down right now, but I will rise again. No, you're not. Look what it says. It's a time. At that time, thy people shall be delivered. Yes, deliverance is coming. And why would one that's been in captivity all the time that we've been here, no matter if you say 350 years, 400 years, 500 years, that's a long time. We should be looking to be delivered, wanting to be delivered, seeking to be delivered. It says, everyone that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Do you even consider that end? Is that the end of your book? Is that the end of your story? Is the end of your story everlasting shame? Or is the end of your story everlasting life? Look what it says. And some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise, shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words, seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So yes, Daniel was he was a prudent man. He lived to study the answers of life, the answers of truth, the answers of time and judgment. He lived for it. And it got to the point where Yahweh said, listen, it's time to shut the book. Your studying days are over. And it's going to be shut until the time of the end. Which means in the time of the end, it's going to be open. And in this time, knowledge is going to be increased. But maybe Yahweh didn't open the book to everybody. Maybe he didn't open it to you. And if he did open it to you, then where is the increase of knowledge? He's not talking about how well you know how to garden, how well you know how to build houses. Yahweh said his desire is the knowledge of Elohim. That's your increase. This is why we indulging in this word tonight. Keeping this sacrifice of righteousness tonight, because it's about the knowledge of Elohim. To magnify his law and make it honorable. To magnify his words. Knowledge shall be increased. And so, the question is, what knowledge has increased with you? Since we're in a time of the end, and Yahweh said that the book shall be opened back up. Well, I can tell you that here at 2330 Kemper Lane, Yahweh has been increasing us in knowledge for the past 7 years. And increasing in abundance, where it's hard to even keep up. To the point that we have to teach every single day. And there's things that Yahweh's servants know that the masses don't know, and they got the same book right in their house. Same book in these stores that you can go to Family Dollar and get a book for $1. King James original version. Get a nicer one for $5 right there in Family Dollar. Original version. Not the new revised versions. No, the original 1611 version. With all the laws, commandments, statutes, and judgments. If knowledge has been increased with you, you should be able to answer these simple questions about the end. Look what it says in the book of Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter. And here it is. We're at the end, literally, of our 400-year captivity. And knowledge is so lacking. Yahweh said, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And here it is. We're supposed to be increasing in knowledge. See, we're in the end, but we've been in the latter days for a while now. The end of 400 years, and our people don't even know that we're in the end. We don't even know that we're in the end. Let me show you what it says in Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter. We'll read a couple verses in here. Verse 22 says, thou shalt truly tie all the increase of thy seed, that the field bringeth forth year by year. Year by year. And you must understand these times, and if you have increase in knowledge, you would understand these times. Then look further in the same chapter and look what it says. The 28th verse reads, at the end of 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithes of thy increase the same year, and shall lay it up within thy gates. So you have a yearly tithe, and then you have the 3rd year tithe, which coincides with a yearly tithe, because a yearly tithe is not going to skip the 3rd year, but within the 3rd year, which is the year of tithing, it says at the end of 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithes of thy increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. See, when you understand the end, you can't understand it unless you understand time. You understand years, how they work. How can you understand yearly or at the end of 3 years? If you can't understand this, how can you understand 400 years, 430 years, 20 years, 70 years as Daniel, he studied the answer and come up with the answers of the 70-year captivity that he was in. And the question is, when is the end of 3 years? When do you pay these tithes? Look what it says in the book of Exodus, the 23rd chapter. Exodus 23, the 14th verse reads, 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in a year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread, the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year. See, the end is connected to the end. All the end is all connected. And when you understand the end, you can get an understanding of the next end. And this is what the scriptures is all about. Wisdom is the principal thing, but with all you're getting, get what? Understanding. And if you're not considering the end, understanding will never come to you. And so you must pay attention to these scriptures. The feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. 3 times in a year, all thy males shall appear before Yahweh Elohim. And when is this? What part of the year is this? If you was listening last night, I showed the people in the book of Exodus, the 23rd chapter that we're in, and also Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Let's go there. Look what it says. And it's all going to begin to tie in. 3 times a year, a yearly tithe, which coincides also with the 3rd year tithe. And the 3rd year tithe, it says at the end of 3 years, when thou hast gathered in your labors, at the end of the year, to keep the feast of ingathering. When you're gathering in your labors, this is the time that you pay your yearly tithes. At the end, when thou hast gathered in everything. And look what it says in the 33rd verse of Leviticus 23. Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall be the feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto Yahweh. And this 7th is consistent, and it connects with the end. And how do we know this? Well, if you understand the foundation of life in which all things are created, Yahweh's had a beginning of the week and he had an end of the week. And the end of the week ended in the 7th day. And look what it says. the 15th day of the 7th month, thou shalt keep the feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto Yah. On the first day shall be a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. 7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yah, and on the 8th day shall be a holy convocation unto you. And ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yah. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work. And look what it says. Let's skip down to the 39th verse. Also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto Yah 7 days. On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. And ye shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook. And ye shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim 7 days. And why? Because Yahweh told us even during the time of tithing, we were supposed to rejoice before him. And so all these times are connected. We paid our tithes during this time. And it's at the end of the year. And the question is, how can you explain this? How can you explain that Yahweh is proclaiming and showing us that the end of the year resides at the 7th month? How can you explain it? Look what it says in the book of Deuteronomy, the 11th chapter. For all those that believe a year is 12 months, or you believe that a year is 12 and 13 months, how can you explain that Yahweh has clearly shown us that the year ends in the 7th month? And since we didn't in the end, knowledge should be increasing, and we should understand these questions about the end of the year, the end of the month, the end of a day. And before you read Deuteronomy 11, go to Exodus, the 34th chapter. The 22nd verse. No, let me start at 21. 6 days shalt thou work, but on the 7th day thou shalt rest. In earing time and in harvest thou shalt rest. And see, earing time to harvest time is from the 1st month to the 7th month. And Yahweh is letting us know that from the 1st month to the 7th month, these are working months. This is when the new year begins. This is when the land begins to produce. And this is when you must begin to work. Because the land is going to cause you to work because it's going to produce. And I'm going to show you why it's going to produce. But look what it says in the 22nd verse. And thou shalt observe the feast of weeks of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. There's no debate that these feasts are in the 7th month. How can you explain this? Is a year 7 months? Or is a year 12 months? Or is a year 13 months? But Yahweh said this is the year's end right here in the 7th month. And when you read, well, let's go to Deuteronomy 11, and then we'll go to the next scripture that came to my mind. Deuteronomy 11, I want you to see what Yahweh says. Deuteronomy 11, verse 11 reads, "But the land whither ye go to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinketh water of the rain of heaven, a land which Yahweh thy Elohim cared for. The eyes of Yahweh thy Elohim are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year." Do you have an answer for that? Is his eyes on the land from the first month to the seventh month? Is that a full year? Or is his eyes upon it from the first month to the 12th month? Or if you believe it's a 13th month, is his eyes upon it from the first to the 13th month? Well, we know earing time to harvest time is from the first to the seventh. This is when the land is fruitful. And this is why you must work, because if you don't work, the land will go haywire. Chaos. Your house will be overgrown. You got to get out there and do something. Even the lazy bums, they going to have to get out there and do something. Because eventually you won't even be able to get into your house. Because the land is going to grow. You're going to say, man, I got to get up out here, man. I can't even get in and out of my house. And the more you let it grow, you're not grooming, other things begin to set in. Because they feel like, man, ain't no man living here. I can go ahead and set pitch here. Snakes and all kind of crawling, creeping things. So you must work this. But Yahweh said, the Sabbath day, I don't care if it's earing time or harvest time, on the Sabbath day, that's the end, and you still must rest, even though you're in a time of working. From earing to harvest, from the first to the seventh. But we know there's no debate or controversy that a year is at least 12 months. And here at this sanctuary, you know that we teach all years are 12 months, because that's the only kind of year that you will read in these scriptures. But like Yahweh said, wisdom is the principal thing, but with all you're getting, get understanding. Now look what it says in Exodus 34. Excuse me, Deuteronomy 26. Deuteronomy 26, starting at verse 11, "And thou shalt rejoice in every good thing which Yahweh thy Elohim has given unto thee, and unto thine house, thou and the Levite and the stranger that is among you. When thou hast made an end of tithing all the tithes of thy increase the third year, which is the year of tithing, and hast given it to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within thy gates and be filled." Yahweh wants you to say and recite all these verses that's coming next. And the question is, do you understand from the scriptures that was already read that this, when it says, "When thou hast made an end of tithing all the tithes of thy increase in the third year," which is the year of tithing, you understand that this process began in the seventh month. Look what it says also in the book of Deuteronomy, the 15th chapter. It says, at the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release. When do this happen? At the end of every 7 years. So when you get to the 7th year, the end of that year begins when? The 7th month. The holiest month out of all the months. This is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called Yahweh's release. And yes, the 7th is when Yahweh will begin to release. The end is when Yahweh will begin to cause people to release, because it's the end. The year is over. The land is no longer going to yield. And now we must release. This is a time of rest. And this is why Yahweh will release during this time. Every 7 years. Not the 8th month, not the 9th month, 10th month, 11th month, and 12th month. He chose the 7th month. Because the 7th represents the end. And so, how can you explain this? Yahweh told us in the book of Deuteronomy, the 8th chapter. So you can't explain it unless knowledge is increased with you. And this is what I was pointing out in last night's program, is that the end time even has its time. When you get to the end of a day, there's a period in between the day and the what? The night. And it's a short period. Very short. But it's still a season. The evening is a season. The morning is a season. And so the day don't just turn off and go instantly to night. No, there's a season. There's a time that the day will come to an end, and the end has its own season, its own process. And that's all we're trying to let you know, that we are in the end. And the end has a process. You paid your tithes in the end. The Feast of Tabernacles was in the end of the year. Tithing is in the end of the year. Whether it's yearly tithes, third year tithes, the end of the year is marked at the 7th month. And if it's marked at the 7th month, how can you explain the 8th month, which we know exists in the scriptures? How can you explain the 9th, the 10th? Now, if you say, well, the only thing we can say is the 8th month is the new year. Now you're talking like the heathens. A new year begins when everything is dying. The land is no longer producing. Now it's getting cold. Everybody's doing less work. Now it's about to start snowing. That's when a new year begins. We know that's not the truth. It's only one answer. Is that the end has a season. The end has a time set on it. It's not just you hear and then slap you right at the next point. No, you have a process to go through even in the end. And Yahweh told us our process, which we're going to read it again tonight, because we are in the end of our 400-year captivity. And we're going to keep driving that point home to you, because you must, at the end time, be considering the end. How would people debating the end, how you going to debate that it's not the end, but at the same time you considering your end? If you're not considering your end, you're not seeking wisdom or understanding. Matter of fact, you have no wisdom or understanding. And we want all our people, we want everyone listening. You must understand, and you must consider not only your latter end, you must consider the end, period. While you want to keep spinning your wheels in vanity, don't you realize that we're at the end? And just because everything didn't stop completely today, the end has a process. And you're right in it. So you don't have a lot of time at all. Because the end is a short period. That's why it's called the end. Like the evening, it's a very short period. And the end of the year is shorter. It's a shorter period than the actual literal year itself. But look what it says in Deuteronomy, the 8th chapter. Because Yahweh has afflicted us through this heathen for 400 years. But Yahweh always has a reason for everything he do. And look what he says here. In the book of Deuteronomy, the 8th chapter, in the 2nd verse, it says, "Thou shalt remember all the way which Yahweh thy Elohim led thee these 40 years in the wilderness." See, we're supposed to be remembering this, because when you considering the end, you always must consider what? Your beginning. This is why the heathen has no wisdom and no understanding. See, if you consider the end, you must consider the beginning, because they're connected. The beginning and the end is always connected. The end of the day is connected to the beginning of the night. The end of the night is connected to the beginning of a day. The end of the year is connected to the beginning of the year. And the reason why is because everything is in a circle. This is a circle of life that we live in. And so from where you start and round back to where you came from. And so this is why your history is always your best source of knowledge, because that's your beginning. And Yahweh always wanted us to remember Egypt. Why remember Egypt? That was the first, that was our beginning. That was the first time the children of Israel ever experienced being in bondage by another nation, dwelling in another nation's land. But it came to an end, and we left out of there. And when you look at how we came to an end there, it'll help you understand how you are going to come to an end here. And that's what I was pointing out last night, if you were paying attention. But we have pointed out to you again real quick. But look what the Almighty says. "Thou shalt remember all the way which Yahweh thy Elohim led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee, to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no." See, this is what Yahweh do. He's going to humble you. And we've been humbled for 400 years, stricken, smitten, afflicted. And that's what humble mean, afflicted, affliction. And Yahweh like, man, this people still, they still love their enemies more than me. They still love the idols that ain't doing nothing for them, ain't saving them. ain't helping them. The idols are their heathens. Idols that actually look like their master. And they still don't want to humble themselves. They still don't want to seek the Almighty and turn unto him and keep his ways. And here it is, we at the end, and they still don't get it. Still want to walk in the imagination of their own evil heart. It says in the 3rd verse, he humbled thee, suffered thee to hunger, fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man does not live by bread only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahweh does man live. And listen, Yahweh said, thy raiment wax not old upon thee, neither did thy foot swell these 40 years, walking through the wilderness 40 years every day. Thou shalt also consider in thine heart that as a man chasteneth his son, so Yahweh thy Elohim chasteneth thee. And so, yes, and you might think this captivity is very, very bad, and guess what? It is. But Israel, and we're going to bring it to you one of these weeks. Might have a whole week of programs where we're going to show you how bad Israel not only is, but was. I don't even want to speak on it right now because we're just going to blow your socks off and show you that, man, Israel was bad, was terrible, and still is. This is why Yahweh had to make covenants, because he's not an Elohim that's going to break a covenant. And he prepared mercy for us. And the reason why is because he loved our fathers. He loved them so much that he said, I have to prepare mercy for your seed. Because these people are going to be something else. A spoiled, rotten, entitled, think they this, that, and the other people. Because they know they the chosen. These people going to smell themselves. They're going to be arrogant, prideful, haughty. It's going to be the haughtiest people you ever want to deal with. Arrogant, foolish. So he prepared mercy for us. But I'll tell you this. I'm going to tell you how Yahweh feel about this, but real quick I want to show you what Yahweh is really doing in the latter end. Anytime he's humbling his people and afflicting his people, what do Yahweh really want? The end is better than the beginning, the scripture says. And this is what we and Yahweh, and more Yahweh than us, has been looking forward to, the end. Because he know the end is always better than the beginning. Look what it says. Thou shalt also consider in thy heart that as a man chasteneth his son, so Yahweh thy Elohim chastens thee. Therefore thou shalt keep the commandments of Yahweh thy Elohim, to walk in his ways and to fear him. For Yahweh thy Elohim bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks of water, fountains, and depths that spring out of valleys, a land of wheat and barley, vines and fig trees, pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey. And look what it says. Let me find the exact verse. The 15th verse. No, let's keep reading these verses. I want you to hear what Yahweh has to say. He said, I'm bringing you to this good land. The 9th verse, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. Thou shalt not lack anything in it. A land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills thou mayest dig brass. And when thou hast eaten and art full, then thou shalt bless Yahweh thy Elohim for the good land which he has given thee. So yes, when you done eating, at the end of your meal, after you done sucked on your fingers and licked your plate, and took that last sip of that wine, Yahweh says at the end of all of that, that's when you're supposed to be praising Yahweh and not forgetting him. He says in the 11th verse, beware that thou forget not Yahweh thou Elohim, and not keeping his commandments and his judgments, his statutes which I command thee this day, lest when thou hast eaten and art full, and hast built goodly houses and dwelt therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all that thou hast is multiplied. Yeah, now you got it going on. You got it going on real good. And then as it says in the 14th verse, then thy heart be lifted up. Why? Because you done forgot the Almighty. You done forgot that he gave all these things to you. He's the one that blessed you with these things. And he blessed you so you can fulfill his covenant, so you can keep his laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments. It says, then thy heart be lifted up, and thou forget Yahweh thy Elohim, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who led thee through the great and terrible wilderness. This great and terrible wilderness where people would say, man, the only way we knew how to know that we were in the beginning of our year if we seen some Abib. We had the green ear. You say, man, you know, Abib growing in no great and terrible wilderness? This was a waste howling desert. You can't use no Abib to tell no year. And Yahweh, well, they said, well, they grew cactuses. No, come on. Stop being silly. It says, look what the Almighty says. Led thee through the great and terrible wilderness, where were fiery serpents, scorpions, drought, where there was no water, who brought thee forth water out of the rock of flint, who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers knew not, that he might humble thee. And why do Yahweh want to humble us? That he might prove thee. And why do he want to prove us? To do thee good at thy latter end. This is the whole point of the process. Yahweh said that, let's go to the book of Isaiah. Yahweh said, look, all this humbling and afflicting, you don't even realize is to do you good in your latter end. Isaiah, the 40th chapter. This is what we're supposed to be looking forward to. The end is better than the beginning. We done made it, people. We done made it through a 400-year captivity, and now we at the end, and Yahweh said, now I'm going to judge these nations. Brothers say, boy, we still getting afflicted. Yeah, we still afflicted because that's just what the wicked do. Even if you ain't even under a 400-year sentence, the wicked afflicts people. The wicked oppresses people because he's a beast. And the only thing on his mind is to oppress, to take, to rob, to murder, to rape, to kill. He ain't thinking about nothing else. How to devour. You think when your 400-year captivity up that he's going to change his ways? No, we the ones supposed to be changing our ways. He's not going to change his ways. This is why Yahweh said, I got to destroy him. So our 400-year captivity is up. But until this man is destroyed, he's going to continue to devour. He's going to continue to oppress. He's going to continue to be wicked. So we being afflicted still don't contradict nothing. We've been afflicted for 400 years. That still stands. But Isaiah, the 40th chapter, verse 1 says, comfort ye my people, says your Elohim. How you going to comfort the Almighty when all you got for the people is, I don't know. I don't know if we in the end time. I don't know when Yahweh getting us up out of here. Well, I'm telling you right now, this is the year. We don't have to know what month or day, but we know that this is the year. So you don't have a lot of time when you only got 1 year. 1 year is not a lot of time. King Ahaz asked Yahweh, please don't kill me. I'm not ready to die. And since he was blessed, Yahweh didn't give him 1 more year to live. He was like, 1 more year? He'd have been stressed out the whole year. No, Yahweh gave him 15 years to live. And if you think we got 15 more years in this country, whew, Ray Charles got more eyesight than you. There's people that's deaf can hear more than you. Look what it says further. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem. Cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished. We're trying to tell you it's accomplished. It's done. Why you want to argue with that? Only the rebellious, the stiff-necked, the hard-hearted. Yahweh says that he asks the question, man, is Israel a servant or a homeborn slave? Because I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. And Yahweh already know. It's just a rebellious, stiff-necked, hard-hearted people. And all they ever want to do is rebel against the Almighty. No, they don't want this country to come down. They want to keep living this life that excludes the Creator. Where they can just live their life and have fun on a merry-go-round in an amusement park, in their ballparks. This is all we want. We don't want to leave here and go to no wilderness and where Yahweh can plead with us and talk with us and prepare us for holiness and righteousness and royalty. Prepare us to be the highest nation on the earth. To live in the everlasting kingdom where all nations will be converted unto you. No, they don't want none of that. Look what it says. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem. Cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned, for she has received of Yahweh's hands double for all her sins. Double. And look what the Almighty says. Also, Isaiah 61. The Almighty said, listen, I've done all this to humble you, just like he did in Egypt, the time of Egypt, just like he did in the time of the wilderness, but it all served a great purpose at the end. In Isaiah 61 verse 1 says, the Spirit of Yah Elohim is upon me, because Yahweh has anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. Only the meek is going to understand and see that Yahweh's servant is actually bringing good tidings to them. He's not prophesying lies. He's prophesying good tidings. He's prophesying what it says as we keep reading. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of Yahweh and the day of vengeance of our Elohim, to comfort all that mourn. Don't you understand what Yahweh is trying to tell you, people? This is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. This is not time to continue to rebel against the Almighty and to strive with the Almighty. Because when you strive with his servants, you striving with the spirit of Yah that he has anointed his servants with. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. And this is all we had in this country. Ashes, heaviness, spirit of heaviness, and mourning, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of Yahweh, that he might be glorified. And they shall build the old waste. They shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. Yes, we got a great work to do when we get home. A beautiful rejoicing work to rebuild our own cities. Not go home. We're going to go home to a place where we can dwell, but it's like we dwelling in trailers while we getting our kingdom together. Because we can't have other people's hands doing the holy work. They have to do things our way, and they ain't going to do it our way until we there telling them the way to do it. And our way is Yah's way. But look what it says. The 5th, and strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers, but ye shall be named the priest of Yahweh. Men shall call you the ministers of our Elohim. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves. And look what Yahweh says in the 7th verse. For your shame, ye shall have double. This is what Yahweh has promised us. This is what the end is about. This is what the Almighty told us. He says, for your shame, ye shall have double. For your confusion, they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore, in their land, they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. Whew. My goodness. This ain't time to not believe in the Almighty. To believe in his words. Yahweh told us in the book of Genesis, the 15th chapter. As a matter of fact, before you go to Genesis, the 15th chapter, something you must understand about Yah and his ways. Yahweh told us in Isaiah, the 46th chapter, this is the way of Yah. He's the only one that is able to do this thing. This is his stamp. This is how you know that this book, which is famously called the King James Version, within the confines of this cover, is Yahweh's book. As recorded in Isaiah 34:16, seek ye out of the book of Yah. This is the book of Yah, the book of the true and living Creator. And he's the only one that's able to do such a thing as recorded in the book of Isaiah, the 46th chapter, reading at the 8th verse. It says, remember this and show yourselves men, bring it again to mind, O ye transgressors. Remember the former things of old. For I am Elohim. There is none else. You must remember the past. You must remember history. And there is no book that can tell you the history of the sun, the beginning of the sun, and when the sun was birthed. There is no book that can tell you the history of mankind and what day he was created on, what day the earth was created. There is no days. There is no books that can tell you why there's 7 days in a week all throughout this earth. Why is there day and night? Why is day and night divided with the sun, moon, and stars? Why is there morning and evening? Look what it says. Remember the former things of old, for I am Elohim, and there is none else. I am Elohim. There is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning. This is what Yahweh do. He's the only one that's able to do it, because there is none like him. He got his stamp all over this book. And that's why when he went to our father Abraham in the beginning, in a book that's called the beginning, the book of Genesis, our first father Abraham, Isaac, Yaakov, Abraham, the one that is the reason that we are the chosen people on this earth, the one that kept Yahweh's charge, laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments, the one that Yahweh established his everlasting covenant with, that circumcised his family and his whole household in the self-same day that Yahweh told him to do it. You think long, you think wrong. He ain't wait till tomorrow. He didn't meditate on it. He didn't consider nothing. But it's time to do the words of Yah. And in that beginning time, you know what he told him? I'm going to tell you about the end, because I'm the only one can tell you the end. And that's what he told Abraham in the beginning. It says in the 10th verse, declare the end from the beginning and from the ancient times, the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. He's going to do everything he said. And Deuteronomy 28 existed before it even happened. Moses had been wrote that down. Been wrote it. Everything we're going through today has been wrote down in this book. Matter of fact, this book was printed in 1611. We didn't even get to the shores of America to 1619. So when you read Deuteronomy 28 and it talk about your communities and how strangers will come into your community after you done been there, you done built a community, but strangers will come over here, the Chinese man, the Arab man, Ishmaelites, and they would get clothing stores and hair stores and gas stations in your community. You don't own jack in your community. And they would take money out of your community and send it back home. And their families is driving in nice cars and living in nice houses. And your community got trash all over it. And poor people laying on the streets. Streets got potholes. Why? Because your community is cursed. And all this was written before it was even done. Because Yahweh is the one that's going to tell you the ending from the beginning. So no, he didn't go to Abraham in the book. Let's see. I want to read the rest of this. Calling a ravenous bird from the east, the man that executeth my counsel from a far country. Yeah, I have spoken it. I will also bring it to pass. I have purposed it. I will also do it. Hearken unto me, ye stout-hearted, that are far from righteousness. And the truth is this: we are far from righteousness. Even, yes, those of us that go to Sabbath class every single day, those that every time you see them, they say, praise Yah, or praise the mighty Yah, or hallelujah, shalom, far from righteousness. Because at the end of the day, we refuse to humble ourselves. 400 years, and we still refuse to humble ourselves. 40 years in the wilderness, we still refuse to humble ourselves. Yahweh said, I did it to humble you. When will you get humble? Because you can't be a servant. You can't be my servant. You can't be nobody's servant if you're not humble. So go on with your unhumble self. Go on until you learn how to get humble. The Almighty told us in Genesis, the 15th chapter, we're going to close out with this. The meek shall inherit the earth. Seek ye meekness. Said, all the meek that has wrought my judgment, seek righteousness, seek Yah, seek righteousness, and seek meekness. Because it may be you shall be hid in the day of Yah's anger. It may be. If you seek meekness and you actually find it. Who knows if you're going to find it? If you're really seeking it, you might find it. Matter of fact, if you're really seeking it, you're going to find it. But Yahweh told our father in Genesis, the 15th chapter, the 13th verse, he said unto Abram, know of a surety. His name ain't even Abraham yet. This is in the very beginning. Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Why would he tell him about the captivity or the bondage of Egypt when that was the very first one? He gonna tell Abraham about the first one, and then Abraham lives his life and dies and don't know about the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one. And then he don't even know about the most important one, the end, the last one, the final one. He don't know nothing about that one. That ain't the way of the Almighty. He skipped all the foolishness and let him know about the final, the end. He says, in the 14th verse, also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. Watch it, people. It's right before your eyes. They're being judged now. All the nations. All of them. And afterwards shall they come out with great substance. There it is, that double portion. That thing that Yahweh says, listen, for your shame, you're going to receive double. For your confusion, you're going to rejoice in your portion. Yahweh said, I've humbled you to do you good in your latter end. And good is coming. Yahweh said, so good, you're going to fear it. It's going to be crazy to you. It's going to be unbelievable to you. It's going to be way too much for you. But at the end of the day, it don't mean a hill. It don't mean a Rumpke hill. It don't mean a hill of beans. It don't mean jack if you're not humble. With that being said, I want to praise the mighty Yah that we are even living in a generation of being in this time, for the end is better than the beginning. And so, yes, this time is better than when we first hit the shores of this country. When we first hit the shores of any of these countries. When this captivity began for us, this time is better. Even though it's a time like never before, it's a better time. It's a darker time, but it's a better time because it's the end of this foolishness. Yahweh is bringing it all to an end. And so I praise the mighty Yah that I even had a privilege to live during this time. And I pray that all of us continue to seek meekness, righteousness, continue to seek Yah, that we may be hid when the anger really get to your doors. You want to be hid. Some people already it hit their doors and they gone. It's over for them. And if it hasn't got to your doors yet, praise the mighty Yah. Seek the almighty Yah. Be appreciative of where you at and the place that Yahweh has you. And so, until the next time, Yahweh loves you, and so do I. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom.
Yeah. Live free. Come on. Fourth tribe. For 100 centuries. Yeah. Let's go. Take a look at my soul. Nothing left but these hoes. They tried to take me down, but Yah is in control. So now I ask you, you suddenly black too.
90 seconds.
When he attacked you, started wars cause they tried to tax you. You should be asking who they was taxing, not what prices on our backs. And the IRS wanted in on the back end. Lincoln was never down for emancipation, just good political relations to try to make a good case for the next election. Yet Jim Crow came right back in the field, certified with a government seal. Crowley tried to stand up with zeal. Sadly, he thought that Jesus
60
was real.
seconds.
He gave us them fake news and education to keep us concealed.
Take a look at my soul. All I wanna do is go. There's nothing left of me. Of this horrid slavery. For 100 centuries, nothing left for you to hold. All I want to be is with my Yah and live free.
Come on. For 100 centuries of this horrid slavery. But Yah, he is the king, and he will save me. So now I ask you, will you drop to your knees and beg Yah, please? Don't you know that Yah is coming? It's
10
like tomorrow.
seconds.
I can't even tell you the time on your Audemars. Just guard your heart, baby Paul, baby doll. Don't cry. Paparazzi never cared about them tears. No way. Just fear my Yah all day. Rest in him, just like the song say. I'm waiting for the day that he sit on the throne. Till then I'm stuck in my zone, staying focused on the day when he finally take us home. Till then I'm prophesying to the dry bones. Till that day that I'm gone and Yah reveal what he has shown. That Yahweh is Elohim, is him and none alone.
Take a look at my soul. All I wanna do is go. There's nothing left of me of this horrid slavery. For 100 centuries, nothing left for you to hold. All I want to be is with my Yah and live free. All I want to be is with my Yah and live free. All I want to be is with my Yah and live free. All I want to be is with my Yah and live free. All I want to be is with my Yah and live free. Live free. Yeah. this horrid slavery for 100 centuries.